What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Just letting you know with this little bit at the start that we now have a Patreon. Sub up to that and you can get all these episodes early and ad-free, so you won't even see this bit at the start. You get them a few days before the main episodes drop out. We've got some great guests coming up. We've got some studio episodes. We've got some Zoom episodes with some fantastic rappers talking about the films they love and the films that influenced them. We got a lot going on there. Plus, you get some bonus content like film reviews, all that kind of thing. I don't need to explain this to you. You know what a Patreon is. But yeah, it's patreon.com/Kinell Sinister Cinema. So check that out. Peace. Yes, people. What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Kinell Sinister Cinema is brought to you by Forgotten Sons Apparel. Check them out at forgottensonsapparel.co.uk. Forgotten Sons Apparel is a York-based streetwear brand drawing inspiration from alternative culture, tattoos, film, classic TV and cartoons from our childhood. In our own words, if you like our stuff half as much as we do, then we like it twice as much as you. I'm a big fan of this brand and I love the guys who make it. They've supported me for years, way before I was podcasting. They supported me in my battle rap career. You might have seen me rocking some of their garms on Don't Flop and other leagues. I love Forgotten Sons Apparel and I'm urging you all to check them out at forgottensonsapparel.co.uk. Right, now on with the show. Okay, and we're off. Once again, it is the KSC. Thank you so much for tuning in. Obviously, I've just got back. We were a bit quiet last week. Had a lot of stuff to do, and I've just got back off the Don't Flop Target practice tour. That was fucking crazy. That was but so much fun, man. It's been an amazing weekend. Got to bring Don't Flop to Chester, my hometown, and get into rap in the place where I live. And what should we call it? See people come out and enjoy it, man. Felt so good. Day after, big up Fool's Gold tattoo. Me and G Double battled whilst getting tattoos. I got my little Legion of Skanks logo there. And what should we call it? Boski and Hulk had a great battle. It is so cool to be able to hit the road and do this daft stuff. But you know, right now, I got to get back to this podcasting business. So, yeah. This is today we're going to be discussing a subject very, very close to my heart. Probably like where I started getting into not only horror films, but also like media collecting, where I learned the ways of the crate digger, all this kind of stuff. I am, of course, talking about the video nasties. I brought up a lot of video nasties in previous episodes because some of them are my favorite films. Some of them are garbage, but some of them are favorite films. But I want to hold off on doing this particular episode till I could get someone in with the expertise. And I'm delighted to have with me, I literally just got StreamYard. I'm figuring out how to use it. Sto.
Yeah.
Yes.
How's it going? Hello.
All good here, bruv. All good here, man. For the people at home, that you were formerly known as the battle rapper Stowaway. You also did loads of like synth pop type stuff. St0w. You're a guy with many different creative hats over the years. Like,
I like to keep busy, man. Keeps me out of trouble, you know.
Yeah. You kind of like drift on and in and out of like social media, like you're not always on there, but whenever you pop up, there always seems to be something interesting and new going on.
Yeah, man, I'm not. Yeah. I'm not like a big poster on social media in general, really. So, yeah, it's usually when I got some new stuff out, or just like, I go through periods where I'm on there a little bit, and then I get kind of a bit like phased with it, and then I kind of tune out a little bit and stuff. So, but yeah, I'm about usually. Yeah.
Hey, great. Good to have you back, man. I was very, very, very pleased when you dropped me a little message saying you wanted to be on the show, man. Flipping. I always thought you were an ace dude. You're an interesting guy, and you've got the heart of a digger. You're someone who will find those unique little gems in whatever aspect of art that you are putting your mind towards.
Yeah, pretty much.
And today we're going to talk video nasties.
Yeah. Let's do it, man. Yeah.
Okay, before we sort of start breaking down the background of the Video Nasties and what they were, man, do you want to tell us a bit about like your relationship with the Video Nasties and the Notorious list?
Yeah, man. Well, it's kind of similar to what you were saying. That's the time I really got like properly into horror films. Like I'd seen a few here and there, like mostly like old Hammer horror films and that kind of stuff like that.
Mm.
So yeah, yeah, same kind of thing. It was the time I got really into horror and into collecting stuff as well. It was during the VHS era, so there was like tape trading going on, people collecting tapes, and it was like a kind of a scene that was going on, I guess maybe. So that was a cool part of it as well. And yeah, like you say, man, I'm into just like looking in the weird corners and under the stones and finding the weird little gems and stuff. So it's definitely a good gateway into that. And the fact that the British Board of Film Classification gave us like a handy collectors list to use was pretty nice of them as well. Like
That it was a collector's list, like.
yeah, man, it's like here's all the films you're not allowed to see. Here's all the bad naughty films. And so like me being like 12 or 13 or whatever, I was just like, yeah, man, let's try and find all these. I got to see all these. If these are the bad ones that you're not allowed to see, I got to see them. You know, like kind of still like that now.
This is exactly it, like, because you know, in the playground, you know, you hear about your Freddy Kruegers and your Jason Voorhees, and then
Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah.
then you start looking into horror films and just see people talking about these Video Nasties, and these are the ones that are prohibited.
Yeah. They're so bad. No one's allowed to watch them. Like the government's literally decided they're too bad for anyone to watch. They're too dangerous. Stay away from them. Like.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep looking back. Like, we're way past the times of the extreme censorship. I mean, like, it's important to realize that what you call it, for a lot of the 80s and the 90s, we were the most censored country in terms of media in the so-called free world.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, we had very kind of puritanical, conservative film boards and people in charge of all that kind of stuff. And yeah, and then there's pressure from like Christian groups like Mary Whitehouse and those people, and so a lot of forces kind of trying to control things and hold down what people are allowed to see and stuff like that. So yeah, it's good that we've gradually come out of that over the years and stuff. For sure.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like there's slightly more, a bit more pertinence to it today. I feel like it's important that people should look into, because we were like at more like East Germany was getting better horror films than us the day the flipping Berlin Wall came down. Like,
yeah, probably, man. Yeah. They're probably
and like it might seem a trivial thing to someone. Yeah, it might seem trivial to someone who's not into horror or maybe isn't as familiar with these films, who doesn't have the. But I think it's important to look at it in like through a modern lens, because how like the Video Nasties thing came about, I think is like quite reflected in a lot of what we see in a social media cancel culture today.
Yeah, man. You kind of see the same thing repeating over time. So you had like the Christian conservatives trying to ban stuff. Well, there's always been moral panics, hasn't there? Like in the 70s, it was like Dungeons and Dragons, and kids that play Dungeons and Dragons are going to start worshipping the devil and whatever. And there's a panic. And then the Video Nasties was like one of those. And I think we are kind of in another one now with the cancel culture thing and the I don't know, people being more offended and that kind of thing. It seems to be the same kind of thing repeating. I think it's maybe just a human thing that some people just want to kind of tell other people what they're allowed to say and watch and whatever. Maybe it just keeps coming back around, kind of in different forms.
I think it comes a lot from like I know it's a lot of the same techniques that what you call it, that people use on social media. Like today, like is a lot of the same stuff as Mary Whitehouse, who was like the big sort of Christian like driver behind this, and like the whole thing of how it came about. It was about taking this isolated piece of information, taking it out of the context where it looked ridiculous and silly and not real, and then presenting it to people who would never have seeked that media out. And like when you see it out of context, it is shocking to people who don't really understand what it is. And those are the people who get upset. Those are the people who are being upset by this information presented to them.
Yeah, definitely. And they probably weren't going to watch that film anyway, or read that comic, or read that book or whatever, or play that video game, whatever the thing was. Like, so really, they're just meddling in other people's lives, pretty much. It's just like, it's pretty wacky if you ask me.
Yeah, this is it. Like, I mean, it's like it's worth realizing that a lot of it was like based in classism and like some really flawed research. Because that like one of the things that mainly drove the public outrage was this one report where they asked a load of school children. They gave them a list of like before they were the video nasties, like horror films with what was considered at the time extreme content, and said, which of these have you seen? And all of the kids were claiming they'd seen films off the list. But that's a heavily flawed concept because kids are lying bastards.
Just saying that to
they later repeated the experiment with some fake names of films thrown in. And the kids were also saying they'd seen the made-up ones.
Oh, sick. Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I probably, like, when I was a kid, I probably claimed I'd seen some films I said that I hadn't seen to sound cool or whatever. Like, that's not good research. You're right though, man. There is a kind of there is an element of classism to it, because it's these kind of groups of people who put themselves in charge, and they're like, oh, if the lower people in society see this film, they're gonna become violent, or if like these people play Grand Theft Auto, they're gonna become violent, whatever it is. It's a kind of thing of like, people are too stupid to work out that it's like fake, and they'll just become crazed and go on a rampage or something. There is definitely a classist element to that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they really said the quiet part out loud. I think it was like James Furman who was elected to become, like, he wasn't elected, he was just hired and given all his powers ahead of the British Broadcasting British Board of Film Classification. He was given all this like unelected power, and like he did say the quiet part loud. He said like he was asked like, how come you watch these films to classify them? How come you are not corrupted by them? He goes, well, it's okay for us to see, but if someone on a council estate in Manchester was to see it, it'd turn them into a murderer.
Their brains won't handle it, and they'll just go nuts or something. Yeah. It's a weird thing, man, and it's and again, that's another one of those things you can kind of still hear now. It's almost the same with, like, I don't know if you've got jokes about something controversial that people won't be able to tell it's a joke, and they'll just hear the joke and pick up those views and go, oh yeah, that's true, and then become like, like a Nazi or whatever it is, like people.
And it mainly comes from when the clip is taken out of the context, like,
sure.
Like, I mean, if someone's going to watch some comedy, they're in a comedy club, there's a setup there. You have the material that comes before it, that comes after it, and flipping, you have that context there. If someone's deliberately like clipping something out of context and putting it on Twitter, you're confronting a lot of people who aren't familiar with that content.
They don't know the situation around it or whatever. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the same with battle rap. Just think if someone took stuff we've said in battles and just put it on paper as a quote, just as if that's the thing we really had said, just like that was our views, instead of it being a joke or whatever. Yeah, they'd think we're the worst people in the whole world. But like, it's the context and everything around it. And yeah, you're right, man. People don't understand that, and they're just presented with it just kind of raw like that. Things get messed up.
Yeah, it's not fair to expect people to understand it. Like, the content isn't for them, and it wasn't, and it was presented to them, and it goes the other way because like now there's people who just don't really have any talent, but make a career out of just being controversial people, like your Lawrence Fox type characters and all this. Like,
you just say whatever the opposite of the current thing is, and then
and it's just it's just all tribalism. It's not, what does my side think about this subject? I'm going to say that, and I'm going to say it in a shitty way, and then all these people on Twitter will want to prove that they're more clever than me by quote tweeting it and dunking it, and all they do is they spread the message further, and that's where toxicity comes from. People who think they're calling this stuff out are like effectively being made complicit in spreading it.
basically, and they probably don't have the context and everything to be able to know what they're talking about properly. So they're like you said, they're spreading misinformation and half informed ideas about stuff, and then that spreads around. Someone else picks it up, and it's just like, yeah, it's a mess, bro.
Yeah, but well, but yeah, so it's important to understand like how we became the most censored nation, from this and that, so we can like sort of look at today's world through that lens, like flipping, and when you start looking at the world like that, it becomes a lot easier to identify who the real shit houses are, and who's being used and attacked like this.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah. I think you've just got to try and I don't know. I don't know. I'm not particularly political either way. My main thing is like censorship and art censorship and stuff like that. So if you're trying to censor art, you're trying to tell people what they can watch, you're trying to stop people being able to write a book, whatever it is, like you're my enemy.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like for whatever reason. I don't care if it's for Christianity or political correctness or whatever it is, man. It's like, to me, art is kind of bigger and outside those things. So you can't contain it with politics or whatever, man. It's too important for that.
A lot of people like try and like lump it under freedom of speech, but really it's with art, it's freedom of expression.
Yeah, for sure, man. Definitely.
You know,
and if you've read history, if you've read about the Soviet Union and like a lot of the different regimes in the 20th century and stuff, it really like it's like it gives you the most extreme examples of that, and it's kind of given me this like not on my watch kind of thing where like I'm just like anything that's going in that direction, I'm just like nah, this is like it means like red flags or whatever. So
I hear that, man. I hear that definitely. So let's get into the film side of it. Like the list itself, it's a big old list, and there's some of the worst trash in the world there, and some of the most fine art in the world, in my opinion.
Cool about it, man. There's some pretty terrible stuff on there, and there's also some absolute like heaters. Like it's a fun thing to go through and kind of watch them all, and like find which ones are which and stuff for sure.
Yeah. So what was your first video, Nasty, that you saw?
Well, the Exorcist is on the list, isn't it? So I saw that before.
I don't think The Exorcist was on the actual list, but it was banned at the same time.
Oh, it was around the same time. Okay.
But they allowed it to be showed in cinemas because it was like basically they thought they couldn't edit it as such because it was the religious themes, like and like while Christian conservatives had like this kind of stranglehold over the country's opinions, like they couldn't really release it in that environment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's the same with A Clockwork Orange was banned over here as well. But that was kind of before the list.
That was banned by Stanley Kubrick though.
Yeah,
because he just generally believed, British people are nuts. They're not safe. They can't see this. Everyone else can. These lot.
Eyeliner on one eye and beating each other up in bowler hats. It's going to be chaos. Ban it. Yeah, for sure, man. I'm trying to think, man. I think maybe Zombie, the Lucio Fulci one, Zombie Flesh Eaters. That might have been. I think that was probably one of the first ones I saw.
Favorite.
And Cannibal Holocaust I saw pretty early on, and Cannibal Ferox. Those two were they were like notorious ones that I sort of checked out pretty early on. Yeah. What about you, man? Like,
still perfect. I think the first one I actually saw in an uncut state was I Spit on Your Grave.
Oh yeah. That was that's obviously a famous one, isn't it? It's one of those ones with a really dope title that's just like whoa, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like it's like sounds brutal.
This is the thing, and I thought they were going to be like Nightmare on Elm Street with better kills. Next thing I'm watching like the most harrowing, bleak 42-minute rape scene.
There was some
fucking
there's some crazy stuff in some of them, and like Last House on the Left was one of the ones I saw pretty early on as well, and that's just like that's just pretty brutal all the way through, and it's just like, man, with Last House on the Left, flipping.
Like, 'cause I mean, like flipping. I think like "I Spit on Your Grave" is a very powerful piece of work. There's no music in it apart from when she's playing the record to drown out the grotto screams. It doesn't ignore like the sort of visceral brutality of the actual real life horror of what it's portraying.
Yeah, man.
And
For
like,
sure. Yeah,
and
it's
like,
kind of
whereas like "Last House on the Left," kind of a bit offset by the soundtrack.
yeah, true. Yeah, the weird funk and guitars and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
all
weird.
fucking. Yeah, you don't need a banjo solo in that movie. Like,
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I
yeah,
spit on your grave.
I believe it was David Hess who played Krug.
Yeah, that
Uh,
guy. Yeah,
yeah, he did the soundtrack with his band. And I think it was one of them things like I'll do the
oh, I
movie
didn't
cheap
know
if
that.
I could do the soundtrack.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's proper. And he's singing fucking lyrics about the foot that's happening here. We're gonna rape some kids, and and it's just incredibly contrasting with the like bleak scenes. Like,
yeah. That kind of makes it really hard to watch because it's just like your brain's trying to put the two things together, and you can't kind of get comfortable with either. And it's just like it's a lot. Yeah, yeah.
well,
But I
like
spit on your
speaking
grave.
of like religious upbringings, like flipping Wes Craven was raised in a very very conservative upbringing. And he was never allowed to watch like any films that weren't like It's a Wonderful Life.
Right. Yeah.
So I think he got into doing adverts and porn because that's how you learn how to. Because those are the people that will let you on set and use a camera, and that's how you learn to make a thing. And he wasn't. He didn't know anything. Yeah, so when he got asked to make a horror film, he hadn't really seen a horror film. So I think it's quite interesting in the same way that he was trying to remake The Virgin Strings. He knew about Ingmar Bergman, and all this. But
yeah, that's a weird influence for a horror director to have. That's kind of an interesting mixture of styles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he didn't have any horror films, so much in the same way that we were kids in the playground and we were like talking about these films in like almost urban legend kind of ways and just imagining the most horrific things we could think of. That was what he was doing as a director because he didn't have that frame of reference.
Yeah, yeah, he was just kind of blagging it in a way. Like,
yeah,
that's kind of wild. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, he had a lot. I don't know. Yeah, Wes Craven's got some good ones as well, man. Like, what's The Serpent and the Rainbow, and like some of those
incredible piece of work.
Yeah, man, and the people under the stairs, and like that's it, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and he's like changed the whole direction of the horror genre like twice with Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream.
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. Well, I was around that. That was kind of when I first kind of started going to the cinema a lot. Was when like the first Scream was out, and like I know
me too.
last summer, and those kind of like second wave of slasher films, and I was into the first wave of slasher films, the 80s and sort of like early 90s ones, like Friday the 13th, Halloween, and all those. So that was a really cool thing when those started coming out, man. And it was like we could go see them in the cinema. Like it was dope. Yeah.
Yeah, I was the same. Like I was like 16 when Scream came out. I think I'd seen like my first 18 was From Dusk Till Dawn, like the year before. But like that sort of reboot, like up until then, you weren't like, for one thing, I wasn't old enough to get in, but for another thing, there weren't really horror films in the cinema like that till maybe like The Craft and things like that. So like we were like effectively the Randy character in Scream, where just watching everything on video on a tiny ass screen, like
yeah, basically, man. Yeah, it was cool. And then there was like after that, there was a kind of wave of like monster kind of movies, like Anaconda and Lake Placid, and it was like giant monster movies around the same time. I remember going to see a lot of those as well, man. Those were fun. Like,
good Deep Blue Sea and that, and
yeah, for sure, man. Yeah.
But like so like before that, it would have been buying videotapes and one of my main sources of one of my main hookups was on the Beast Market in Wrexham. There was a guy with a white van who'd sell like rental shit out the side.
Yeah,
And
man,
like that guy didn't care about age restrictions.
Yeah, man, same. That's how I got a lot of stuff like kind of early on was from that. Because I was in Manchester at the time. There's a place called Affleck's Palace, which is like a big
Ah, yeah.
building with loads of stores and stuff in. And there was a guy in there who had like a video thing. And then if you went and went to the counter and gave him the word, he had like a bag of videos under the counter, and it was always like horror stuff, video nasties, like kung fu stuff, porn, just like treats basically.
All the good shit.
All the good shit you want, yeah, for sure. All the weird shit.
Yeah, like interestingly enough, like I don't know if you saw last year Prano Bailey Bond's Censor.
No,
which
no,
had a
no.
that had a I reminded me of that because like that's a film like set during the video nasty scare about a woman who works on the censor board.
Oh no way!
And
I missed that for some reason, man. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. That sounds cool. Nice.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I think they nailed like quite a lot of stuff with it. Like from that guy on the Beast Market. I got my first pre-cert video, which was Frozen Scream.
Nice. Yeah, I've seen that one,
man. One of the shonkier ones from the list. Like it's not a particularly good film, but it's got a good shot at the end, which is kind of a POV of someone getting injected in the eye and blood runs down the screen.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah. And that shot was actually used in Censor.
Oh, okay. Sick. Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think Censor was like it was the first film I saw when cinemas started opening back up, and like people were still doing masks and all that bullshit. Like, and after a year of being locked inside, like, and getting well into me Blu-ray collecting again, I got and watched Censor. And like one of the first images I saw on a cinema screen in like years was the Frozen Scream final shot of blood running down the screen.
That's sick, man. That's really cool. Yeah, but like a giant version of it. So
yeah.
That's
but yeah, incredible, man. So I suppose we should talk about tape trading, really, because
yeah.
Because this was how you had to do it in them days. Like, because you couldn't always rely on the supply of your local hooky dealer. Flipping, if you wanted to get the best stuff, all the cool Italian shit, all that kind of vibes, flipping, you needed a hookup, and you need a hookup for bootlegs. And I saw you post one of the old postal lists recently on Instagram.
Yeah. I'm weird and I keep shit like that. I can remember where I got that. I got that from a horror film convention in Manchester in like 1996. It must have been. I've got a photo somewhere of me and Tom Savini from the same day. Yeah, it was sick, man. But me and my friends, we basically just bought like a load of tapes off this guy, and he said, "Oh, like, here's a list of all the other stuff I've got." Like, and and it's just like. It's like 5 or 6 A4 pages of just like lists of films, and it's got like little notes next to them, like how good the quality of the copy is, because a lot of them were like they'd be copied from some like foreign laser disc, or they'd be like
tape of a tape of a tape.
Yeah, and it's like degraded over the years, which is that's one of the kind of cool things to me about VHS tapes is like they have that quality about them. But so it's just, and then I'd get tapes off him like in the post. I'd literally just send cash in the post in an envelope to him, and then he'd send back tapes, or sometimes the cops would get them. Like a few times, I had a letter from the cops saying, "We've intercepted your tapes. These are like, these are banned material or whatever." And then it'd be like an address to like go and get them back, but I never like I know when
because they just go, "You've won a free speedboat."
It's not fooling me that easily. Yeah. So sometimes they wouldn't even get to you, and then like But that was kind of the cool thing, man. It seems so like obscure now because you can just like tap on a piece of glass on your phone and kind of watch whatever. But like you say the like Italian stuff or like some obscure like more weird stuff. That was kind of that was the only way you could get it. It was like send some guy money in the post, or like maybe go to
yeah, like actual physical cash and all, like
actual like a £5 note, put it in an envelope with the thing saying what films you wanted, and then yeah, you'd get them in the post a bit later. Get some tapes in the post. Yeah, good shit, man.
Yeah, there's the ones that were just taped using 2 video recorders recording off each other. You get like a 4th generation one. It'd be horrendously unwatchable, but flipping, it'd almost give like a found footage snuff movie quality to some of these films that you watch in a clear on a clear version and think, what the hell is this?
Yeah,
like I live.
Some of them look cooler if they're kind of grainy and a bit like you're like, oh, where's this come from? Should I be watching this? This is kind of, it's got a weird vibe about it. Like,
yeah, some films are like are genuinely better. Like Cronenberg's Videodrome. I don't like it HD, man. I don't like it HD. Like flipping having it on a physical tape just looks better.
Yeah, man, for sure. Like, I got that's like the only film I've got the Criterion version of is Videodrome, and it is almost too clear. And I picked up this weird bootleg from this guy on eBay, which is like it's called the Extended TV Composite Cut or something, and like it's got like when they showed it at different times on different channels in America, apparently there was some parts that didn't end up in the cinema cut or in the video cut or whatever. So there's like little bits that are missing. So this is like a cut of like all those kind of put together kind of thing, and it looks kind of like rough, like it's recorded off TV, and that kind of makes it look like more cool, to be honest, man. Yeah.
That sounds tidy, man. I've got to see that. Like Reanimator was a film like that, where there was like huge sections of plot that just like aren't in like the regular version.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
like now you can get like the master cut or whatever they call it if you pick up the Arrow Blu-ray, or I think I've got whoever put it out before them. But there's whole subplots about like the big evil doctor guy being a hypnotist and all this, and this is how he can do all these things.
I think I've got some like weird German DVD of it, which is like a weird long cut or something. Yeah. But that's actually kind of was a cool part of tape collecting, was like trying to find the uncut versions of stuff, because some of the films you could get in shops, but they'd been cut down by the British Board of Film Classification, so they had all the cool gory bits or the nudity or whatever, the bits you wanted to see were all cut out. So
Vipco was flipping notorious for it. Because like basically the BBFC would send the films back with a list of cuts you got to do it. And whoever was doing the cutting for Vipco was not artistic with it.
No,
flipping like the most.
Yeah, some of those are terrible. Like I've got the Vipco version of like Shogun Assassin, and just the editing.
Oh yeah.
It's so bad. Like it's so clumsy. It's just like, oh man, what are you doing? But yeah, like
Shogun Assassin was like 2 different Japanese films like slashed together in the first place, wasn't it?
Put together. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that was like, that was one of the things, was like on that list I had that we were talking about, it have like uncut version or like extra 5 seconds version or whatever. And literally like me and my mates would track down versions of the film just for the extra 5 seconds of gore or whatever. Like it was worth it.
I don't know if you remember him. Do you remember Baron Mind?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Good dude,
He's a big collector of like really extreme stuff. Some of his stuff's into like the Mondo territory, which isn't for me. Like, but flipping. But before I was like back into hard collecting and got myself like a multi-region Blu-ray player, so I could just buy foreign versions of that. Like he was my hookup for like certain extreme things. Like nowadays I go to effedupmovies.com and because he'd always be the guy who could like find the shit.
Yeah,
and like he's the guy who knows those secret cuts. Like, but I got the Grindhouse releasing Cannibal Holocaust, which has got the big long like road to death in it. Like that, like I thought it was the most complete version. But there's been so many cuts of Cannibal Holocaust. Like, flipping like it. Even like the director Ruggero Deodato doesn't 100% know which the right cut is. Because there was shit done for different territories.
Yeah, right.
And like there was like Yeah, they cut in like stuff that wasn't even in the original cut for like a German release because they were about it, like, and all this kind of
They
stuff.
wanted extra footage of turtles being killed and shit, so they put some in for the German market. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's one of my favorites, man. I like that film a lot. It's probably the first found footage film, horror film as well. Maybe, not sure exactly.
Yeah, certainly. Flipping, like, it's important to realize its legacy. Like, like Cannibal Holocaust is like it's just not like the most powerfully bleak film. Like,
it is, man. It's got a really like weird, like sad, bleak vibe about it, which is like weird for a horror film. It's an interesting film, man. Like the weird synth music and stuff is kind of yeah. Did you see
because
Green Inferno, the Eli Roth kind of?
Yeah, I did like he was. Yeah,
cannibal vibey thing. Yeah, what do you
very
think?
much a trip. One thing that I clocked recently, like, because I did the reboot of Wrong Turn recently. That's like,
oh right, yeah.
Not, and I couldn't figure out what, and there was something a bit off about the film. And I couldn't figure out what it was about it. Flipping, like, I couldn't figure out, like, because it's not like the original film. It's like a different thing, and it very much wears its political art on its sleeve. And then I realized what I was trying to do. They were trying to make an Italian cannibal movie with scary whites.
Yeah,
and like
that's kind
of
and
the scariest whites they can think of is first generation European immigrants who haven't lost the with libertarian values to local government, who haven't like lost the accent from home. So like the American kids are okay. They talk about climate change and stuff. These people who just want to run their own community and don't want people like rocking up there, flipping, like, they're the scary people. But where that film pussies out. I mean, and the Italian cannibal films didn't. Is that there'd always be like a flip in them. You'd think like, oh, they're scary. This other community doing they're committing cannibalism. They're like killing meat and then actually eating it, like fucking you pay someone else to do for you. And
we do, but with the process in between to make it more
and then they flip it at the end, and it turns out the Americans, the outsiders, are the fucking arseholes. Shouldn't have been there in the first place. Poking their nose where they don't belong. And they don't do that in the Wrong Turn reboot, and I don't like it for that reason.
Okay, right, yeah. No, that makes sense, man. Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of theme of a lot of those Italian cannibal films and stuff. Is like, people from America, whatever, thinking they can like go and meddle in other people's shit, and like they get eaten.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, I don't know. You could say that's an analogy for American foreign policy to a certain extent and shit. Going and meddling other places and shit like that. It's But that's one of my favorite ones, man, for sure. Cannibal Holocaust. That's and just the cover artwork as well, man. I remember like
iconic.
When I lived in Manchester. Yeah. There was like a secondhand video shop I used to go to, and they had a pre-certificate copy of it, like behind the counter, like where the rare shit is, and it was like 150 quid or something like that. Yeah. But man, like that artwork on the cover is stuck in my head, man. Where is it? I've got it here actually somewhere.
Yes.
It's so brutal, man. It's like a death metal album cover or something like that, man. It's just like. And that stuck in my head, and like I think that was why it was one of the first ones I saw, because I was like, I've got to see Cannibal Holocaust. What's the film like that's behind that fucking artwork, man?
That's how a lot of it works, because this is how like these independent releasing houses works, because like there wasn't really trailers, you couldn't really read reviews of things, like later on we get like Shivers or Dark Side or whatever, and you see that kind of things. But really, all it was about was having the coolest cover.
Pretty much, man. Yeah. And that's another thing I really love about the video Nasties kind of era is the cover art and the like the painted covers and stuff, and because they had to grab you, like there's loads of them on the shelf in the video store, and yours has to be like the one that makes people go, holy shit, I got to see this. Look at all the fucking explosions and gore and shit going on the cover, man. I got to see this. So that was how they get you in, because there wasn't trailers and shit like that around.
And like sometimes the cover would be better than the film. Like,
yeah, a lot of times, man. Yeah. I rented a lot of stuff based on the cover, which turned out to, not to be so great over the years. But then sometimes they're like so bad that they're good, and you end up enjoying them anyway. Like I remember, like me and my mates would go to Blockbuster and we just rent 3 or 4 films over the weekend and go stay at my mates and just watch them. And like, if they turned out to be bad, we enjoyed that as well because it was just like the acting was cheesy or there was like some dumb stuff that was funny in it, and yeah. So yeah, but yeah, it was hit and miss, man. You couldn't always go on the cover.
yeah. But like like I say, it's worth around like some of the greatest works of art in cinema history, man. And like,
no doubt, man. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is fucking like high art. That should be in a museum, man.
yeah,
Like, as a piece of filmmaking, the atmosphere, the vibe, the whole feeling of it, man. It's so intense and fucking. Makes you like you watch it and it makes you feel like you're covered in grease and like dust and like
yeah,
chicken bones and shit from the floor of the house and shit like that. It's an intense film, man. It's so good. And that was another one like The Exorcist they couldn't cut because there isn't that much actual gore in it. It's just so intense and like weird, and
yeah.
they didn't know what to take out. It's just the whole thing was so messed up that they couldn't censor it.
From like,
let's say banned it. Yeah.
From like the sound design on it,
Yeah. From when it opens, man, I remember the first time I saw it, and it's black, and you just get that noise, and then the flash, and then I was just like, oh man, I don't like this already. Like,
yeah, that was one of the first ones I managed to get hold of like a really good copy of, because a lot of the bootlegs I was getting were like these copies. And like I think I've watched some documentaries since, and it turned out like it was just about 2 guys in the country that had like multi-region laserdisc players that were getting like the Japanese cuts or whatever, that were like farming out these these first generation half decent looking copies.
And then they were just like spreading throughout the country, man. Well, salute to those guys, man. They did they're doing God's work. Do you know what I mean? That's an important thing.
They're keeping us supplied, like, but
I don't know how else I would have seen like Category 3 movies in the mid-90s unless I got them off like a VHS of like a Japanese laser disc or something, man. Just like,
yeah, some like mad Japanese ones. I remember like reading an article in a Dark Side magazine about like some crazy Japanese films. That was where I first read about like the Guinea Pig series and all of this.
Yeah.
And Entrails of a Virgin, and I got a copy of that without subtitles. I still don't know what the fuck that movie's about to this day, but it's fucking odd.
Yeah, some of those they're quite interesting. Those like weird short, they're like hour-long, half-gore sort of porn Japanese films, like the Guinea Pig films and stuff. There's like a bunch of them, like Doll of Tumbling Flesh and Lady in a Sea of Red and stuff, and it's just like anyway, that's a kind of side thing from Video Nasties, I guess. But
you kind of had to go through the same channels. But again, like that, it's another thing that proves why censorship doesn't work, because like we were both like underage teenage boys at the time, and like banning things and cutting things. It was all about protect these children that have been lying about flipping seeing these films they haven't seen. It's all about protect the children. Instead, what you're doing is you got flipping like young teenage boys buying videos out of a white van, when sending like young boys to a white van ever been keeping them safe, and like connecting us with an actual criminal network. Like,
yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, technically, this video piracy was a thing. There was adverts before films that you get, like telling you not to do video piracy, and like it funds crime and all this kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean that's another interesting thing about the Video Nasty era, is it was when VHS tapes were kind of first coming in as well. So you got kind of the cultural thing, and then there's like a technological thing where people can watch films at home for the first time and not have to wait for them to come out in the cinema and all that kind of thing. And so you had this like, I don't know, like before the British Build of Form classification, you had kind of like a bit of a a gold rush Wild West situation or whatever, where just everyone was putting shit out, like, and it was just like porn, exploitation films, kung fu films, action films, everything was all just coming out. And they just put like, if it was an adult film, it would just have an X certificate. So if it's a horror or it was like, whatever, it would just be X certificate. That was it.
Yeah, I believe there was like some kind of classification with cinemas, and like if a film was an X, it could only play in certain cinemas or whatever.
Yeah, I think they had to have a special license to play stuff like that, because the porn and the horror and everything was all in the same category.
Yeah,
you had to have a special license, I think, to show that stuff. Yeah.
but is it and they ended up setting up the British Board of Film Classification to control what people could have in their own homes. Where what should we call it? They couldn't.
Too many.
They couldn't look. Yeah, and it was run by a guy called James Furman, who he was a very opinionated guy, and like he had a lot of power. Like like towards the end of his tenure, he was doing things like when they eventually released Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Like he just recut the film himself, not just marked series of edits. He re-edited a scene.
Just yeah. I thought the pacing would have been better if he like moved some of the scenes around or something. Just did his own thing with it. That's
flipping, like literally like the big shift when we can start like seeing like all these films on DVD and getting them at home. It is literally with the retirement of James Furman. He did have like way too much power, and he had some very strong opinions. But like in the end, he ended up becoming it because like around about what should we call it, like just before Scream and all this, like where there was the whole Child's Play free thing, which was blamed on the murder of James Bulger. There wasn't even any evidence that the boys hadn't seen the film, and what's called, there was no evidence that it was even in the house. It was just something the newspapers picked up on for something.
As far as I can tell, man, there was no real connection, like other than the papers said there was, and like they were children, and Chucky is a doll, which is a child's toy, so it's I don't know, man. There's no link there, really, man. You really got to reach to make it fit together. But like you say, they kind of had an agenda of wanting to censor things, and these kind of high-profile cases that are very shocking to the public and morally upsetting, it gives them a reason to step in and go, "Oh, don't worry, we'll make everything safe for you by taking away all the horror films." And putting them on the bad.
Yeah, and if you don't have the context, and like off the back of that, I believe it was like the councillor for Liverpool started pushing for like really wanted all violence banned in all violence and adult films banned from all films in the UK, which is even further than. And this is where James Furman stepped in and said, "Well, at that point, you're going to be banning Schindler's List. You're going to be banning art that people can learn something from," which was true in the first place of the original BBFC, but when you take it to an extreme, eventually even the people in charge go, "You're just being stupid now." Funnily enough, one thing James Furman did before he checked out is because he had all this like complete control over what could and couldn't be shown, and like literally one day he just legalized hardcore pornography in this country, and like
Oh, was it him that brought in the R18 certificate thing? Because I remember
the government couldn't do anything about it because they'd given him all this power. He just literally turned up on TV one day and said, "Lads, you need to see these ones where you see it going in."
We're doing it properly, like they do in Amsterdam now. Like,
fucking, you can see it going in all the places. It's fucking ace. You got to watch this. I mean, obviously, he sold it in a slightly more classic way, but one day he just goes, "Right, I've watched every pornographic movie in an uncut form, and I'm officially about ready to say it's time to watch it going in."
That's it, man. I never realized that was him because I remember that happening because it was like a thing where it was like I remember it being on the news and stuff. And I remember one of the first couple that they released with. Where you could see it going in was like a bat girl.
Yeah.
So
it was like Bat Babe or something.
Yeah. I remember that for some reason, but I never knew that was James Furman that was to do with that. That's fair play, man. Maybe he had a change of heart on his way out, and he's just like, "Wait a minute, I've done everything wrong. Right, we've got to let everyone see dicks and whatever.
This is it. Like, look. I'm not backtracking on the violence, but we're going to see some dicks, hard dicks going into stuff.
Yeah. We're stepping up a level.
Yeah. So fucking, but ultimately, like, you know, there's like the government couldn't do anything about it because they'd given him total control.
Yeah, man. That's...
So it just had to happen. So, you know, there's another lesson that you need to learn. If you like give all this power to an unelected body, sooner or later they're going to make decisions you don't like, and you're not going to be doing nothing about it, which is why it shouldn't really be a thing.
That's it, man. If you protect everyone's freedom of expression, then you protect yours and fucking your brothers and your neighbors and your mums and everybody's, like, no matter what stuff they're into. And that's how it should be, man. It should be a universal thing, like, and just respecting that different people are into different stuff, man. You know what I mean? Like, I don't try and go around forcing everyone to watch all the weird shit that I'm into, so I don't get why someone else gets to tell me what I can and can't watch or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Just like,
yeah, this is it. Like,
out of it, it's wrong.
Yeah. This is it, man. Like, I'd feel perturbed if someone like tried to like make me watch children's entertainment because I don't watch it. It's weird and uncomfortable to me.
Yeah, I don't.
But that doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's not my thing.
Yeah, other people can watch it. That's fine. Let people do what they want, man. Yeah, pretty much.
It's you know, it's something that's like sort of permeated like throughout. Like I feel like we're in an unusual time. With because certain what should we call it, prejudices as to who people are based off what they watch have gone now, and people are a lot freer to enjoy what they want, and this has led to like a lot of adults now don't watch adult entertainment. They watch Marvel shows and Disney shows.
Yeah,
we do have, like, you know, there's a good percentage of adults that won't watch anything with the word fuck in it because they just like that shit, and that's cool, that's fair. But it also means that that maybe they're not going to have the best like grasp of context of what things outside of that are like.
Yeah, and also they're not gonna challenge themselves. They're not gonna push themselves, and you know, like if you know, like my favorite kind of films, it's not a genre especially, but just ones that fuck you up and you're thinking about it for like a week afterwards, and you're like, shit, man, that really fucking, and you're mulling it over and
it stays with you.
Yeah. So like, and often those are ones that are like, they're shocking or they're like emotionally intense or something like that, and these people won't ever challenge themselves. I feel like they're missing out on a lot of kind of experiences and finding out about themselves and stuff, because films are a way you can experience intense stuff in a safe way. Do you know what I mean? Like horror films are like a ghost train or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get spooked and it's fun, but nothing's, you know, you're fine. You're just watching a film.
Yeah, the film ends, the lights come on.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is it, like, and like people do deal with things in different ways. I've spoken to, like, I know some people that are unable to watch certain content, maybe content involving sexual assault or whatever, because of experiences in their life which have caused them. But I also know other people who watch like quite extreme content as a way of processing their trauma.
Yeah, man. Well, what's the therapy where, like, you know, if you're scared of spiders, they move you closer and closer to a spider, and then you hold the spider, and eventually you're not scared of spiders. It's kind of like that, man. It's like I'm saying, it is a way you can experience these like crazy emotional states, and it be safe, and you're not actually in danger. You're not actually in the situation in the movie. Do you know what I mean? You're not Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems going through all the stress, but you can kind of go through the stress with him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
And that's it. You know, you're just cursing his decision making and all that kind of thing. And
yeah. But it does make
that like it's interesting that you mentioned Uncut Gems. Like that's probably like my fucking like mental health issues is my I'm currently like in the process of receiving treatment for ADHD and all this, and like I've just gone through life making loads of terrible, fucking stupid decisions.
Same, man. I've got like anxiety and I get depression sometimes and shit, man. And it's yeah. So it's that's what it is. But
yes, I like flipping. You know, it's something I've dealt with, like ridiculous decision making, and he says fresh off his rap battle when he got this tattoo. Fucking. Man, I don't know. That was a good decision, man. That was a lot of fucking fun, and my years of being a topless model are way behind me anyway. So who gives a fuck? But yeah, like that's kind of like why Uncut Gems was so affecting to me, because I know what it's like to be a guy who makes stupid fucking shit decisions that are probably not going to pay off. Like, and it's just nice to be able to experience that in a way that fucking ends.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely ends. It's a pretty abrupt ending to that movie. Yeah. I like the Safdie brothers a lot, man. Like the two they did before that, Good Time and Heaven Knows What, are amazing as well. I'd say I probably like those more than Uncut Gems maybe, but they're both like pretty just intense energy, just going. Like kind of.
Do you know, I haven't watched the other two because of like because of like how Uncut Gems made me feel, but they're also like really high up my to watch list.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to be into a certain mentality to watch them.
Good Time.
But I know one day it will come.
Yeah, man. Good Time is more. It's a bit more fun and less stressful than Uncut Gems. It's still got the same kind of like energy, but like Heaven Knows What is brutal, man. It's like it reminded me of like Kids and like Larry Clark films and stuff. It's just like it's in New York, and it's written by this girl who went through all this stuff in real life, and she wrote a memoir about it. So the film is based on her memoir, but then also she plays herself in the film that is based on her memoir. So it's like it's almost got like a documentary, like Kids. You know how it's like it's very real and almost too real, makes you uncomfortable. It's like that, man. But it's it's brutal, man. That one messed me up pretty bad. The Safdie brothers, though, man, rate him definitely.
Yeah, man, nice, man. So like we barely scratched the surface of Video Nasties, but you are like an expert in a lot of fucking areas that I really want to talk about, and I never seem to have like someone with the expertise to have a proper chat with. Like you mentioned folk horror, the sort of Asia extreme movement, the new French extremity, and that these are all like areas that I really want to get into. So
yeah, they're all really interesting, man. So yeah. Anytime you want to get into those, that's cool.
Yeah, flipping. I'll probably have you back fairly regular, man. If that's cool, man. I've to do an episode on all those things.
Yeah. But, like to chat about movies and shit, man. Anytime, like for sure.
Yeah. But like before we wrap up, because we kind of like drifted onto the old Uncut Gems there thing. Is there anything else you've seen recently outside of the remit of the Video Nasty that you've been buzzing off lately? Anything that's caught your vibe?
Yeah, let me have a think, man. I saw Men, the Alex Garland film. Did you see that?
Ah, yeah.
Man, that again, there's a scene at the end of the film. I'm not gonna say anything in case you see it, but like
I have seen it like since like.
Okay. So you know the scene I'm talking about, man. I've just never seen anything like that in a horror film. I was just like, that is like in all my years of watching, messed up films. I was like, I've never seen that done before. Wow, that's fair play, man. I really enjoyed that. That was cool. Let me think. One film I really rate that like I feel like a lot of people kind of haven't seen is the Suspiria remake.
Guadagnino.
Yeah. Have you seen that? Have you seen that one?
I have. Like I did. What should we call it? I've got to give it another go again soon because I'm such a fan of like the original. I watch it quite regularly.
I try not to compare them because like like I'm a big Argento guy, and so it's almost sacrilege to me to try and compare them. So I kind of keep them separate almost because they're both great. I think in kind of different ways, but like that kind of blew me away. And I think like before that probably Hereditary was the last thing I saw that like really kind of messed with me and stayed with me for a long time. Yeah.
Like hopping back to Argento, like flipping it, like I think both Suspiria and Tenebrae, like two of my favorite films of all time, like on the Nasties list. But I recently went to Fright Fest. I caught Dark Glasses, you know.
Oh, yeah. How was that?
It's good, man. It's good. He's not going out on Dracula 3D.
Nice.
That was like I saw that and like Dario came and introduced it. Like that was like
nice.
That was one of the main reasons I like went to Fright Fest for a couple of days. Like, and I feel like
yeah, no doubt, man. Yeah.
A lot of people like Fulci and like
I love
all these legends of that era. They ain't with us anymore. So I just wanted my last chance to sort of salute the man in person.
Yeah, man, for sure. Absolutely.
I got to say, like Dark Glasses, it's like it is a somewhat of a return to form. I'd say it's a return to 90s Argento form.
Okay, yeah. Well, he's one of the guys that's had a few different periods over the years. You know what I mean? You've got the the 80s stuff, and then he gets less colorful and psychedelic in the kind of 90s stuff, but it's still kind of it's more the thriller element he leans into a bit more and stuff. So
when you got like your traumas and your the Stendhal syndrome is a pretty visually wacky film. Like
yeah, there is some crazy stuff in it, actually. Yeah, actually, have you seen Possession?
Years ago, but I need to watch.
I forgot that was on the Video Nasties list. That's kind of a weird one to be on there. Like I was looking for I got a book that's got a list of all the Video Nasties and stuff, and it's like a divorce breakup movie with Sam Neill and his missus, and they're just constantly arguing and going nuts at each other, and then this weird cosmic horror element comes in towards the end, and it gets
it's like it is H.P. Lovecraft presents Kramer versus Kramer, isn't it? Really,
yeah. It's and that's a kind of weird. That's an interesting mixture of things to me. Plus Sam Neill in it, man. He's incredible. Like his performance in it, he's just going absolutely ham every scene, just yelling, hysterical, flailing around on the floor. Yeah. Like I was just like, damn, like that's
I think I would have seen that like not long after I saw Jurassic Park. So like those are my Sam Neill references.
Yeah, for sure. And fucking Event Horizon.
Yeah. Oh yes. what an absolute banger.
Yeah, man. That was one that I got an uncut version of. Like I had a bootleg tape of that one, and I had like extra gore, like Sam Neill stabbing himself in the eyes and all that kind of stuff that like wasn't in the UK one or whatever.
Yeah, there's like a what should we call it? Supposed to there's like supposed to be like some kind of like the Halloween 6 producers cut, like flipping like super mysterious version that no one's ever been able to get hold of. Like
yeah.
And I'm really hoping it'll turn up once, even if it's just like a VHS rip or something. So like I got the Arrow release of The Burbs. And
that's a cool film, man. I used to love that film growing up, man. That's a
that was kind of my vibe. It was like sort of comedy, but it's a bit spooky as well and all
weird,
that.
And like yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The Arrow release on it has got like Joe Dante's like original like work print of The Burbs on it. It's like 2.5 hours long.
Really? Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that existed, man. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I have to look that up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like ripped off the VHS, but it should be easy enough to get hold of. Like I got it on the Arrow Blu-ray, like, but it's mad. There's like this whole extra plot in it, and like where Tom Hanks has been sacked and he hasn't told his missus yet, and that's why he's at home, like pretending he's on holiday, slowly going insane, and
yeah, because I remember that used to be on TV quite a lot, like when I was growing up and stuff. And Big was on TV a lot around the same time. And Burbs is like really weird compared to like other Tom Hanks or comedies or whatever. It's got like a really weird vibe to it. Like
yeah. Like actually, like flipping. I normally try and cap these off at the hour, but I think the one thing that does bear mention about this era of watching movies is like my family never had a Sky, but I had mates who did.
Yeah.
And used to tape stuff and like
yeah.
Bravo was a wild flipping source of
yeah, man. They used to show some crazy like documentaries and stuff, and like Yeah, weird stuff, man. Yeah,
and things that hadn't even been sent for certifications. Like I was talking to Foresight about it recently, and fucking like they used to show blood sucking freaks on there.
Oh, yeah. Another one we on. Yeah. That's cool, man. Yeah,
like
they used to show some. Yeah, they used to show some wild stuff, man. One thing I don't know what you think about this is like one thing that seems to be, I don't know, with now that everyone can just watch everything, but it's becoming narrower and narrower sources of where you can get stuff from, and I just like back in the VHS days, obviously you'd just go into a physical video shop and you'd like look around, and then like maybe the staff would have like a staff's pick shelf of like stuff they thought was good or whatever, and it was, you know, that's how you'd find stuff, or you get chatting to someone and they'd recommend you a film or whatever. But other than like scrolling through streaming services, it's just like how do people know all these films were even there in the first place, other than like heroes like Arrow Video and stuff that are like taking care to kind of preserve them and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, how does a kid now dig around and find the weird stuff? Where do they even look for it? Like
the KSC podcast,
right here. Yeah,
but assuming there's no kids looking for it.
I
think
but that's the thing.
I think to bring the conversation around full circle. Like, we kicked it off by talking about the dangers of social media, but I suppose the way that you find about these things is by finding communities of people who are into the stuff you're in.
I guess so, man. Go join a Video Nasties Facebook group or something, and
other people, or like Twitter, you know, like flipping, see who like people who talk about your favorite films and see who they follow, and it expands out from there. And like I mean, like the horror and extreme cinema community is a very welcoming place. Like,
for sure, man. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It is one of the. One of the kind of more friendly online communities, definitely, man. It's it's cool because it's like, you know, it's people like us who like recommending stuff to each other and spreading the gems to other people so they can enjoy them and shit, man. That's it's an important thing to do.
Yeah,
I'm not kind of saying that in like a, I don't know, like, oh, kids these days they I'm more saying it like I want the kids to be able to find the weird stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like. And if
this is it, like, you know, in an age when kids are getting like force-fed stuff by their algorithms, like, you know, it's good to know that the kids who want to dig are still out there, like.
That's it, man.
And I hope they get to find the gnarly shit that they're into, man. Like,
yeah, man. Yeah. Good luck.
You know, from tape trading to flipping.
Yeah, all that. You know, it's just like. It's a fun thing as well, on top of just being like, you know, you get to find loads of cool movies and stuff, you know, like it's like you're saying, it's a social thing. You meet people, we find people into the same kind of weird, specific micro genre of films that you're into, and you can talk to them about it and stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's good shit, man.
Got to keep man, safe. Right. Okay. Cool. Well, I'm going to wrap it up there. Like, I'll definitely try and get you back. Like, maybe watch like and soon.
Yeah.
Because this was great. But before I drop off, you got anything you want to plug?
I got an album out. It's called Artificial Skeleton. It's the first like rap album I've made. It's a full length album. Made all the beats and stuff. You can find that on Bandcamp, fucking Spotify, wherever. Check that out, man. It's I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's quite cool. So yeah, just that pretty much. Go check out my album, I guess.
Awesome, cool. As always, thank you for watching this Kinell Sinister Cinema podcast. If you listen on an audio channel, give us the 5-star reviews, because no one gives me any reviews, and I want some reviews. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment. You know the YouTube things. Everyone says them. I quite like it when you do them. It's appreciated as always. But on that note, and also check out the Patreon, patreon.com/Kinell Sinister Cinema. Flipping the people over there, they're having a great time. They're seeing this 2 days before you're seeing it. Who'd have thought it? But okay. Thank you very much to my guest.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Safe.
It was a good time.
Safe.